What's up, everybody? I'm B-True, and yes, today we have something a little bit different. I'm actually going to be talking about the Bleach Netflix adaptation movie that is on Netflix right now. And yeah, I know there's Naruto Online arena footage in the background. It's just stock footage, so something is going on to keep all you people with zero attention span preoccupied. Okay, so recently I know it's, especially with all the memes and stuff, it has become very popular to trash Netflix adaptations of movies of anime, especially after the Death Note adaptation. I mean, that was absolutely horrendous. Like, I felt dirty watching that movie. The entire time I just wanted to turn it off. It was about as bad of an adaptation as you could possibly get into live action. But today, I'm going to talk about the Bleach adaptation, the live action adaptation that was released. It's on Netflix for anybody who is interested, and I watched it recently. It's fairly new. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that I liked and some of the things that I didn't like about it. So first off, it is all Japanese characters, okay? It is not American, and that is actually a very important point to make here. Not because I feel like the characters need to be Japanese, not because I enjoy English subtitles or English dub one way or the other. I actually enjoy English dub when I'm watching anime anyway. But why I think that's important is because I feel like the American studios don't understand the concept of the anime. Like, they don't understand the driving factors behind why people like these anime. And they're just trying to cash in on, making a movie, making an adaptation about it. And I think that's one of the reasons the Netflix adaptations have been so terrible, is because they don't truly represent the spirit of the anime. Like the stuff that people fall in love with the anime never cross over into these Netflix adaptations. And I think that this movie, the Bleach adaptation, actually does a really good job of keeping that same spirit and the same concepts, and for better, whether it's because it is a Japanese adaptation or not, I feel like that is something where they at least understand the core concepts much better, because they're much more attuned with the anime itself. So, right off the bat, one of the things that I like is the spirit of Bleach absolutely translates over into this Netflix adaptation. It doesn't feel like some cash grab where they just threw a bunch of characters together and said, hey, go act like the characters. I mean, the movie itself was very, very reminiscent of the show. Now, one of the problems, not with this adaptation particularly, but just in movies in general, when they are based on either a long book series or like an anime like this, is you have to fit so much character development into a super small time frame, unless you're going for like a trilogy, 4 or 5 part movie series. And that can absolutely handicap some of the movies, because in an anime where you have, sometimes hundreds of episodes getting to know characters, they have to essentially take what is the entire first season of character building and fit it into about the first 20 to 30 minutes of a movie, because you can't spend 2 hours just building up your characters. You got to get into the plot of the movie. So I think that's an issue when you are trying to convert something like a series, a TV show, into a movie. And I definitely noticed some of the, I don't necessarily want to call them shortcuts, but there were some pretty key things that were missing in the Netflix adaptation of Bleach, where some really important moments of character building that obviously they just didn't have time to put into it. Most of the time, you're focusing on Ichigo and his training, or lack thereof, I should say, in this Netflix adaptation, because for a majority of the movie, he doesn't want to be a Soul Reaper. He doesn't want to train. He doesn't want to get better, and that's the same as with the show. I mean, they captured that part perfectly, but the problem is because of that, you don't get a lot of the character building. Like some of the other characters, especially Uryu and Chad, have very, very little screen time, and the screen time that they are on, you get no backstory from them whatsoever. They just kind of show up, they do their stuff, and that's it, which does suck a little bit, because one of the good things about Bleach is how each of the characters kind of eventually tie in together, and how they have their own backstories that kind of, eventually melt them into a group. And you don't have that in this adaptation in this movie, which, is unfortunate, but I do understand why that is, because of time. So you lose out on that right there. Speaking of characters, the two, obviously, the two that aren't Ichigo that get the most amount of screen time are going to be Rukia and Orihime. Orihime also gets very, very little backstory, but she gets more screen time, so you at least kind of get a feel for who she is as a character. One of my issues with casting with this, okay? So in the anime, Rukia and Orihime are sort of looked at as 1A to 1B as far as waifu status, okay? Now, so what I mean by that is a lot of people are split between who they like more, Rukia and Orihime. Now, in this movie, whoever did the casting missed a huge opportunity, because Orihime is gorgeous and Rukia is just okay. Like, I personally, I'm not even super attracted to, like, Japanese girls. Like, I know some people are really into Japanese girls. Like, they have, fetish for them. They love the whole waifu status thing. I'm not even super attracted to Japanese girls. And when I saw Orihime, I was like, oh, damn. She's hot. Wow. And then Ruki is just kind of, she's just, she's just okay. So a little disappointed on that. There's a very clear who you should choose for the movie, which they lose out, which obviously it's not important to the story whatsoever. It's just something that is important to the fan base, I know, of Bleach, and I feel like they missed an opportunity there. Orihime is wonderful. She's so cute in the movie, and Rukia is just, meh. She's just there. She's just kind of there, like you wouldn't say no, but you're also not going to go out of your way for her either. So, and then the two other character choices that were really important for this movie. One, I think they absolutely nailed on the head. And the other, I think they dropped the ball a little bit. Not necessarily who they picked, but how they portrayed the characters. So, I guess I should talk about Ichigo, right? I think Ichigo was great in this movie. The guy who played Ichigo was great. He was a very believable Ichigo. He reminded me of the character a lot, and I think he was excellent. So, okay, the two that I was just talking about here. First off, Renji. I think they hit Renji directly on the head. Like, the guy that plays Renji, I don't know if you could get a better Renji portrayal. So this guy who plays Renji, he's very, like, Japanese gangster teen kind of character. Okay, if you haven't seen the movie, it's gonna be hard for you to really picture what I'm saying, but he reminds me very much of, not quite Yakuza, because the Yakuza generally, when they're portrayed, are very stoic. This guy is like he's like a gangster, sort of like the Yakuza, but with a just straight attitude, like just everything about him is just superiority. I'm better than you. You're trash. You're big waste of my time. And it was perfect. I mean, the way that he plays Rukia, or not Rukia, Renji is amazing. And especially, you really need to see the adaptation, the movie, to get this part. But there's this thing that he does. It's like a tick, like a character like tick. The thing that they just kind of do. Sort of the way that Naruto always says datebayo, how that's like his like tick in the show. This character, the guy playing this, his tick, he did this thing with his mouth where he would kind of like he'd curl one side of his lip up, and he always did this when he's looking over his shoulder, which is, like I said, it was perfect. I mean, he's always like, I'm better than you, you're trash, you're not worth my time kind of thing. He'd be looking over his shoulder, and he would just kind of curl one side of his lip up, like in disgust. And this little tick, set the character over the edge for me. It was such a perfect portrayal of what I imagine Renji to be like. This kid who grew up on the streets, in a bad part of town, having to fight for everything he's ever had. Very, very gangster-like. Very, like I said, like bad part of town, worked his way up just through beating ass kind of character. And I that was my favorite character of the movie for how they portrayed versus the anime was definitely Renji. So that means the other character that I actually didn't really enjoy was Orihime's, not Orihime, what's Rukia's brother's name? Crap, I'm completely spacing out on this right now. Byakuya, that's it, Byakuya Kuchiki. So the guy who played Byakuya Kuchiki, okay? So when you think of the anime, let's think about Byakuya Kuchiki for a second. In the anime, okay, when he gets first introduced to us, he is the definition of calm stoicism, right? I mean, he is quiet. He only speaks when he has to, and he only says exactly enough to get his point across. He's not the kind of character that's going to ramble on. He's not the kind of character who's going to waste time or energy or words with a character that he doesn't feel is worth his time. He's very, very stoic, like I said. And when you first get introduced to him, I mean, you can just feel his presence in the anime. You can feel like, okay, this guy, not only is he a badass, but he knows it. He knows he's on a different league, and he is just a cut above everybody, you know? They kind of start that way when they first introduce him in the adaptation in this movie, but then he very quickly has way too much dialogue, like way too much dialogue. And it has nothing against the character himself. It's the way that they chose to portray Byakuya. I feel like they missed the mark because they felt like they had to give him more of a presence than they should have. In the anime, you don't see Byakuya show emotion for a very long time. I think the first time you actually see Byakuya show emotion is when he's fighting Ichigo up on that mountain next to the Sokyoku. I honestly think it's the first time you ever see him even show emotion. He gets very emotional in this movie very quickly, and his stoicism and his dialogue is way too many. I mean, he's stringing like sentences together and delivering them with emotion. I don't want to say passion. I mean, it's like emotion. It's like frustration. It's anger. And these are things that in the anime Byakuya did not do. And it was one of the things that kind of threw me off a little bit on the character, because I feel like they tried so hard to make Byakuya this important piece of the plot to drive things forward that they went way too far over and completely missed the point of the character. So I was upset about that. I think the person playing Byakuya was fine the way he was. He didn't wow me, didn't blow my socks off or anything. But what they chose to make him as a character, the directors, I feel like they screwed that up a little bit. But hey, what are you gonna do? You get a perfect Renji, you get a not perfect Byakuya. I guess it all evens out in the end, right? Okay, so those are my thoughts on the characters. Let's talk about the actual plot itself. The plot is very, very directly correlated with the anime. Very close. There's a couple kind of major changes, especially when it comes to Grand Fissure, who kind of is like the climax of the movie. There's like two climaxes. It's a little weird. But Grand Fissure is like the first climax of the movie, and then you get the whole settling with Renji and Byakuya kind of thing as like the second climax, the climax after the climax. Everybody loves when you climax twice, right? No, but But yeah, so the plot was pretty good. The action was actually stellar. I think the action was really, really good. They did a great job of kind of capturing the fights. Like, the fights were good. Everything up until Renji's sword, when he releases it into his its Shikai, that was very noticeably computer generated. I mean, obviously it's going to be really hard to not make that, but that was like really, really obviously computer generated. But everything else looked very real. The stunts looked real. I mean, obviously there's points where the people are jumping incredible distances, or they're taking one step and flying 50 feet forward. But they did it. The editing is done in a really, really good way, to where it doesn't look ridiculous. Like, you've seen those movies where people have super speed, super strength, or whatever, and it kind of looks ridiculous when they're doing it. This didn't look ridiculous. I enjoyed the fight scenes a lot. There's multiple fight scenes in this show, or in this movie, and all of them looked excellent. So all in all, when it's all said and done, I think the Netflix adaptation of Bleach is by far the best live action adaptation of an anime that we have received so far. None of the other ones have done well at all. They've all been completely terrible. I actually really enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed a lot of things about it. There were obviously a couple of flaws that I mentioned, but all in all, I really liked the movie. I think it's definitely worth watching. It's not something that I'll watch again, but it's something that I enjoyed a lot when I watched it the first time. I highly recommend it to everybody. Give it your own shot. Don't just let me tell you what the movie's like. I mean, watch it for yourself. See what you think about it. Let me know down in the comments if you agree with what I said, if you have watched the movie, or what maybe your favorite part or not favorite part of the movie was. As far as Netflix adaptations go, this is the first good one that we've had. It's not a great movie, but it is a step in the right direction as far as Netflix adaptations go. And that makes me hopeful. Maybe someday we'll get a good Naruto live action. Maybe cross your fingers, you'll get a good Dragon Ball Z one. Although I feel like the first live action Dragon Ball Z was so terrible that they'll never even attempt it again. But who knows? Who knows? Anyway, guys, I do appreciate everybody watching this video. I know it is different from most of my normal stuff, but I wanted to talk about this because it was important to me, and I wanted to get my thoughts out and see what you guys think. All in all, I would probably give the Netflix adaptation of Bleach a 7 to a 7.5 out of 10. Like I said, it's not anything that's super amazing. It's not going to blow your socks off, but it is very enjoyable the first time you watch it, and it is 100% worth giving a chance, whether you have sworn off the live-action animes or not. All right, everybody. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you all in the next video, and peace.